What's this? Paul frowned as he held up the bottle of wine she'd just delivered to his table. Mia leaned in, calm and unshaken. A little something I picked out just for you. He smirked, clueless, but she could see it, the guilt flickering beneath his grin. And that's when she slid the envelope across the table, sealed, heavy, and carrying the question that would shatter his perfect lie. What happened next made every jaw in that bar drop. Welcome to Revenge with Luke. Let's uncover what really happened. The notification pinged like a gunshot in the quiet of her home office. Mia stared at the screen, her fingers hovering above the mouse. A credit card statement, overdue by a day, had popped up. Late fees, she'd remind herself. But these charges weren't hers. A rose-scented spa treatment in the city, a red velvet cake from a patisserie she'd never visited, a five-star dinner at a restaurant she didn't even know existed. Her breath caught. She scrolled, heart thrumming against her ribcage like a frantic drum. Each foreign transaction felt like a slug of betrayal, burning its path through her calm veneer. This isn't a mistake, she whispered, voice trembling in the hush. She leaned back, the leather chair creaking beneath her, and pressed her palms to her temples. The familiar weight of trust fractured in her chest, cold shards of uncertainty slicing through every memory of their 10 years together. Paul, her husband, always meticulous, always reliable. How could she reconcile the man who packed her lunch with care and the one who could spend thousands on someone else? No warning, no fight, no whisper apologies. Just a series of charges that told a story she never saw coming. A sudden surge of nausea rose in her throat, the air tasting metallic. She closed her laptop and slid to the floor, knees drawn to her chest. The late afternoon sun streamed through the blinds, creating prison bars of light across her skin. She felt invisible, as if her life had evaporated, leaving behind only this hollow ache. And that's when it snapped. Mia pressed her forehead against the cool wood of her desk. Tomorrow, she decided she would go to the bank, not to beg for answers, but to freeze every card in Paul's name. She would uncover the truth, no matter how painful, because some fractures can't be glued back together. Next, why her heart hammered even louder when Paul walked in at dinner. She poured orange juice into 2 glasses, forcing her hands to steady. The soft clink of ice against glass was louder than the radio's morning chatter. Across the table, Paul buttered his toast, humming a tune she once loved. Her heart thundered against her ribs, but her face remained calm, an actress perfectly cast. She slid a plate toward him. "Eggs?" she asked, voice measured. He nodded, unaware of the storm brewing in her eyes. She took a bite of her own eggs, the yolk turning grainy on her tongue. Every flavor blurred into white noise. Paul sipped his coffee and reached across the table to squeeze her hand. His warmth felt foreign, distancing. She pulled back slightly, but let her fingers brush his. The touch was a reminder. This man, the one she vowed to trust, had used her credit to finance another life. She practiced small talk, plans for their weekend getaway, an upcoming work presentation, words tumbling from her mouth like confetti. She watched Paul's face light up at each topic, bitterness twisting in her gut. How easily she could unravel it all with a single question, but she stayed silent. Her unease thrummed beneath her ribs, a hidden fire that crackled whenever their eyes met. Outside, the neighborhood stirred to life, joggers passing by, children waiting for the school bus. Everything seemed ordinary, but her world had tilted on its axis. She smiled at Paul when he grinned back, the corners of her lips aching from the effort. The mask fit perfectly, but it was burning. The phone buzzed on the counter, another reminder of the bank appointment she'd scheduled tomorrow. She breathed in, filling her lungs with resolve. Conversation stalled as she wrapped her napkin neatly and stood. Paul paused mid-bite. "Everything okay?" he asked. She pinned him with a steady gaze. "I'm fine," she said softly, but her eyes told a different story. As she walked away, her heels clicked like a countdown. Behind her, Paul watched the retreating silhouette of the woman he thought he knew, unaware that the mask would soon shatter. Next, the cold reality of the bank's marble floors and the legal power she wields. thought for a couple of seconds. The marble lobby swallowed Mia's footsteps as she stepped through the revolving door. The scent of polished stone and soft jazz drifting from hidden speakers wrapped around her like a promise of order. She approached the reception desk, heart thudding, and asked for a banker. A crisp nameplate, Elaine Park, gleamed under soft lights. Elaine greeted her with a practiced smile, as though they were old friends catching up. Mia returned the smile, feeling the cool veneer settle over her nerves. "Thank you for seeing me on short notice," she said. Elaine motioned toward a private office, and they sat behind a sleek glass table. Mia watched the reflection of her determined eyes, doubled in the transparent walls. Elaine opened a ledger. "You wanted to discuss your account?" Her tone was neutral, but Mia saw the question in her eyes. "What's wrong?" "I'd like to freeze my husband's cards," Mia said, voice steady. Elaine's pen hovered. "Is there a reason?" Mia drew in a slow breath, letting gravity anchor her resolve. "Unauthorized charges." She tapped her phone, showing the list: spa treatments at midnight, upscale dinners when Paul was supposedly in meetings. Each timestamp was a shard of evidence. Elaine's brow furrowed, and she clicked through screens. "I'll place an immediate hold on all cards under that name," she said. The ledger screen blinked, marking cards as inactive. "Would you like new card issued in your name only?" Mia nodded, feeling power pulse through her veins. "Please." And remove his access to the joint line entirely. As Elaine typed, Mia's thoughts raced. The cake, the roses, the fragrance of betrayal. She pictured every purchase slipping through Paul's fingers to someone else. Elaine slid over forms, agreements, signature lines, affidavits. Mia signed with deliberate strokes, each letter a testament to her new agency. When it was done, Elaine looked up. "All set. We'll send your new cards overnight, and you'll receive confirmation once his access is revoked." Mia's chest loosened, as if the hold on her breath released. She offered Elaine a grateful smile. Standing at the window afterward, Mia watched the city hum below. Tomorrow, she'd follow the money trail further. Today, she'd reclaim the only thing she still controlled, her financial autonomy. Next, the digital breadcrumbs leading her deeper into Paul's hidden life. Mia sank into her home office chair, staring at the glowing screen where rows of numbers blurred into a mosaic of deceit. Each line held a timestamp and a vendor name: Luna Bistro, Bloom and Petal, Skyview Hotel. She clicked the first transaction, Friday, 10:23 p.m., and a picture popped up, Paul in a tailored suit, 2 champagne flutes raised in a private dining booth. Her stomach clenched. With a few keystrokes, she archived every image, every receipt, building a timeline of nights she was told he spent at late meetings. She traced the path. First a single dinner, then weekly indulgences, bouquets delivered to an address she didn't recognize, weekend stays at a nearby luxury suite, surprise spa packages billed at dawn. The pattern emerged like footprints in fresh snow. He was visiting someone. Her fingers trembled as she opened a map app and plotted the merchant locations. They orbited around a chic condo building in the city's eastern quarter. She zoomed in on the address linked to the largest charges, a penthouse level. A shiver ran down her spine. Each transaction was a breadcrumb leading to Paul's double life. The soft hum of her computer fan sounded suddenly accusatory. She pressed her palm to her pounding heart, tasting copper on her tongue. The doorbell rang, startling her. She closed the tab and rose, smoothing her blouse. Maybe it was a package, flowers for work, a routine delivery. She crossed the entryway, every step echoing with the weight of what she'd uncovered. As she peered through the peephole, her breath hitched. The box on the porch bore an unfamiliar name in elegant script. Her next steps would plunge her deeper into the mystery, and closer to the truth she both craved and feared. Next, a casual chat with the delivery driver yields the mistress's name. The driver lifted the package onto the porch and rang again. Mia's fingers tightened around the doorknob. When she opened the door, a young man in a uniform nodded. "Delivery for Ms. Emerson," he said, checking his scanner. Mia blinked. Emerson? The label read Cassie Reed, but beneath it, in flowing script, was a return address for Emerson and Company. Events. Her pulse jolted. Cassie Reed. Emerson? She held up the slip. It says Emerson. He frowned, flipping through his handheld. Oh, sorry, company name. Emerson and Company delivers for all their clients under the company name. He tucked the slip away and handed her the box. Have a good one. Inside, she found a vase wrapped in tissue paper, the tag obscured. Sliding off the paper revealed ivory lilies, her favorite, and a small card. To Cassie, with love. P. The initial was unmistakable. Mia sank onto the steps, lilies trembling in her lap. P for Paul. She gingerly touched a petal, its surface like fragile silk. The bouquet was intended for Cassie. This woman who lived across the city in a condo Paul was secretly funding. The realization struck her like ice water. Her world had splintered around this name. Cassie Reed, a.k.a. Ms. Emerson. A stranger who'd become the recipient of his devotion, his money. She pictured Cassie's name on every billing slip, every gift. The lilies scent wound through her senses, delicate, heady, imbued with betrayal. She pressed them to her nose and held back a gasp. This was more than a series of charges. It was proof of Paul's affection for someone else. Clutching the bouquet, Mia rose. Each step toward her front door felt like stepping into a new reality. She would need to confront Paul, but not yet. First, she had to gather every piece of the puzzle. The name, the address, the timeline. She slipped the lilies into a vase on the kitchen counter, their petals stark against her white countertops. Tomorrow, she'd knock on Cassie's door. Tonight, she let the scent linger, a reminder of the betrayal that would fuel her quest for the truth. The dining room glowed in soft lamplight as Mia set 2 plates of herb-crusted salmon before her husband. The scent of lemon and thyme mingled with the lily's lingering perfume. Paul sank into his chair, gratitude lighting his eyes. "This looks amazing," he said, lifting his fork. Mia offered a small smile and took a bite. Conversation stalled. Tomorrow's presentation, traffic on Maple Avenue, a stray cat in the yard. Topics skated across the surface without depth. Each time Paul looked at her, guilt flashed but flickered away as quickly as it came. Mia forced herself to chew slowly, savoring the flavors she knew he'd never remember sharing with her. Paul cleared his throat. "Is everything all right?" he asked, voice low. Mia's fork paused midair, sauce dripping from its prongs. She met his gaze, eyes unreadable. "I'm fine," she said evenly. He nodded and swallowed. She watched him, the man she married, tracing the line of his jaw, the way his fingers tapped the table. Her heart pounded with unspoken accusations. Across from her, Paul's watch caught the light, an expensive model she never approved. The memory of that charge, 3 nights ago, delivered at midnight, flared in her mind. She swallowed, the last of her wine burning her throat. Beneath the table, her leg bounced, a silent drumbeat of tension. Paul cleared his throat again, glancing at her plate. "No more salmon?" he probed gently. Mia set down her napkin. "I have an early morning," she said, voice calm but firm. "I'm going to bed." He opened his mouth, but she rose and walked away, her heels clicking on the hardwood floor like a verdict. Paul stared at the empty chair she'd left behind, confusion clouding his features. Mia paused at the top of the stairs, placing her hand on the banister. The mansion may have been filled with elegant decor, but tonight it felt suffocating. She pressed her palm against her heart, slow breaths grounding her. The lilies on the counter watched silently as she retreated to her sanctuary. Silence wrapped around her like armor. Next, late-night research uncovers the condo address where Paul and Cassie meet. Late that night, Mia slipped from her bed and crept down the corridor, moonlight guiding her steps. In the master suite, she pressed a finger to the doorknob and turned it slowly. The closet door stood ajar, a sliver of darkness spilling onto the plush carpet. Her breath hitched. Inside, amid her silk dresses and tailored blazers, she spotted an unfamiliar touch. A black leather suitcase, edges scuffed. She flicked on the closet light. The suitcase sat atop neatly folded sweaters, as if stashed in haste. Mia lifted it, weight surprisingly light, and unzipped the latch. Folded inside was a blouse, cream silk, adorned with tiny pearl buttons, and a scarf scented faintly of jasmine, its fragrance drifting like a memory she never asked for. Her fingers trembled as she lifted the blouse, noting its size. Too small for her, perfect for another. Her pulse spiked, beating against her ribs like a trapped bird. She closed the suitcase and pulled at the scarf, inhaling the jasmine. It clung to her fingers, a stark contrast to the lavender soap she used each morning. These were traces of someone not meant to share her home, her life. She rifled through pockets and linings. Nothing but stray threads and a lipstick stain on the lining. No note, no confession, just silent proof of Paul's hidden presence in their sanctuary. The closet, once a place of order and calm, now echoed with betrayal. Mia zipped the suitcase shut and carried it to her office desk. She set it beside her laptop, feeling its weight anchor her determination. She would uncover every detail, every day, every hour that Paul had devoted to Cassie. As she slid the closet door closed, a single hinge creaked, a whisper of the secrets it concealed. Mia stood in the dim hallway, heart pounding, and knew the walls themselves had joined her quest. Next, mapping the condo's exact location and planning her first reconnaissance. The sun dipped below the skyline as Mia eased her car to a stop 2 blocks from the condo building. Dusk painted the streets in violet shadows, and she slipped on a dark coat that made her nearly invisible. Her pulse thrummed, anticipation tightening every nerve. She stepped onto the sidewalk, phone in hand, and navigated street numbers until she found the address. 417 Eastwood Drive, a glass tower reflecting fading light. A distant valet pocketed keys and handed Paul his car, its engine purring. Mia ducked behind a hedgerow, waiting. Moments later, Paul strode toward the entrance, phone pressed to his ear. He paused at the doorman, flashed an access card, and disappeared inside. Mia counted to 10, then followed, weaving through the lobby without drawing attention. Soft jazz floated from the lounge, and the scent of eucalyptus hummed in the recycled air. She rode the elevator to the penthouse floor, her palms slick against the stainless steel buttons. The doors opened to a dim corridor lined with recessed lights. Mia edged toward apartment 417 B, pressing her ear to the cool door. Faint laughter drifted through the crack, Paul's deep cadence, and a lighter voice, airy with amusement. She tapped her phone twice, capturing audio. Each word felt like evidence hammered into her heart. She slipped the phone back in her pocket and circled to the building's side, where floor-to-ceiling windows offered a glimpse inside. Through the glass, she saw Paul handing Cassie a wrapped gift box. Cassie's face lit up, a smile bright, and unaware of the woman tracking every moment of this betrayal. Paul leaned in, brushing a strand of hair from her face, and she caught her breath as if someone had punched her in the gut. A sudden cough behind her sent her spinning. A maintenance worker in coveralls froze, tool belt swinging. Mia forced a nod. "Evening," she said, voice steady. He cleared his throat and backed away. She exhaled, chest tight, and jotted down the window's adhesive seal code. Dusk deepened to night as Mia stepped back into the shadowed alley. She looked at her phone. Timestamps, audio file saved, seal code recorded. The Mistress, Cassie Reed, had a home just like hers, and now Mia would enter it. Next, disguised as a courier, she plans her entry. The courier uniform was stiff and unfamiliar, but Mia buttoned the shirt with practiced precision, not daring a tremor. She tucked a package under her arm and slipped on a cap, its brim hiding her eyes. The condo's foyer glowed under chandelier light as she stepped inside, scanner in hand. "Delivery for Cassie Reed?" she asked the concierge, voice low and authoritative. He scanned her badge, not looking up. 417 B, take the elevator to the top. Mia nodded. Each step toward the elevator felt heavy, as if time itself weighed on her. The doors glided open, and she followed the quiet hum of music to room B. Heart pounding, she raised her scanner and tapped the keypad code she'd recorded. The door clicked, and she pushed inside. Soft music swelled, and warm lamplight revealed a living room draped in cream and gold. Hovering at the center was Cassie Reed, laughing into a phone. She paused, spotted Mia, and her smile brightened. Oh, perfect timing. Cassie stepped forward, graceful, pressing a kiss into Mia's gloved hand. Mia's breath caught. She cleared her throat. Package for you, ma'am. Cassie tucked her phone in her pocket and took the box. Paul emerged from an adjacent hallway, white shirt unbuttoned, hair tousled. Surprise flickered across his face before he masked it with a familiar grin. Hey, love, he said, stepping around Mia to wrap Cassie in an embrace. The scent of her perfume, jasmine and something softer, swirled around him. Mia held her composure as she handed over the scanner. You two look cozy, she remarked lightly, voice smooth. Cassie glanced at Paul, then back at Mia, confusion and curiosity in her gaze. Everything okay? Mia pressed her lips into a polite smile. All set here. Enjoy your evening. She turned toward the door, feeling the weight of every second she'd witnessed. Once outside, Mia drew in a shuddering breath. The image of Paul's affectionate touch lingered behind her, a truth more vicious than any charge on her statement. She slipped out into the corridor, each footstep echoing her resolve. She'd expose every lie, no matter how deeply buried. Next, she reviews the footage and plots the release that will shatter their world. Mia's backseat office felt cramped as she replayed the audio and footage on her phone. His laughter, their soft whispers, each moment a nail in the coffin of her trust. She watched Paul brush Cassie's hair behind her ear, heard Cassie murmur, I missed you. A pang of something cold and precise settled in Mia's chest. Her finger hovered over the send icon on her secure messenger app. One tap and Lena would have everything, and before dawn, their friends, neighbors, even Paul's colleagues would know. But she paused. Public ruin was one path, but first, she needed closure. She closed her eyes and pictured Paul's face when he realized he'd been unmasked. The shock, the guilt, the desperate scramble for an explanation. She smiled thinly and pocketed her phone. Tonight, she would let him sweat, believe this was his moment to confess. At home, she removed her coat, slipping silently through the foyer. Paul's slippers slid across the hallway as he appeared, eyes bright with work stress. I got your message, he said, voice hopeful. Everything okay? Mia met him in the living room, standing too far to touch yet too close to ignore. She let silence stretch between them until his gaze flicked to her, unsettled. You seem distant, he said. I've had a long day, Mia replied, voice calm. She watched him tilt his head, uncertainty creasing his brow. Her pulse held steady. He took a hesitant step forward. Talk to me. Mia inhaled, feeling the room tighten around her. I just need some space. She offered him a small, polite smile. I'm going up to bed. Paul's shoulders sagged. Is this about the statement? He asked. Mia's stomach clenched, but she nodded. Just rest, okay? He reached out, but she slipped past him. Each step up the stairs was a countdown to their reckoning. From her bedroom, she watched him pause at the bottom, conflicted. She pressed her back to the door, breathing in the lavender scent of her sheets. Outside, the night held its breath with her. Confrontation would come, but not tonight. Tonight, she would let the mask slip on its own. Next, Mia drafts the letter that will demand his account of every secret. Late that night, Mia tapped a knock pattern on Lena's door. 3 sharp raps, 1 pause, too. Lena cracked the door, eyes wide. You okay? She whispered, stepping aside. Mia slipped in, shutting the door softly. They settled at Lena's kitchen island, mugs of hot tea steaming between them. The familiar warmth of friendship eased the tight cords in Mia's shoulders. Lena slid a manila folder across the counter. I did some digging, she said. Transaction IDs, addresses, dates. Everything lines up. Mia opened the folder to spreadsheets and printouts. Receipts from Luna Bistro, Bloom and Petal, Skyview Hotel, all annotated in Lena's neat script. Beneath, Lena's own notes. Penthouse 417B, courier disguise, audio, file secure. Each detail a lifeline in the sea of betrayal. Thank you, Mia breathed. Lena reached out and squeezed her hand. You don't have to do this alone. Mia closed her eyes, letting the solidarity settle like solid ground beneath her feet. Lena had once helped her through a breakup. Now she'd help her through the storm that threatened to tear her world apart. They plotted a course. Mia would hold on to her evidence until the perfect moment. Lena would alert mutual friends quietly, preparing for fallout without igniting gossip. Together, they'd assemble a circle of trusted witnesses, people who would testify they saw her husband's duplicity firsthand. Lena's phone buzzed. She glanced at the screen and exhaled. Dan called. He's your bank contact. He confirmed the freeze has gone through, and your new card's shipped tomorrow. Relief washed over Mia. Good. I'll have clean accounts again. Lena poured more tea. In the letter, Mia nodded, heart pounding. I'll write it tonight. It demands his explanation, every detail. Lena slid a pen and notebook toward her friend. Mia picked them up and began to draft. The date, her observations, her questions, no accusations yet. Only the demand for truth. Each sentence sharpened her sense of purpose. Hours later, Mia folded the letter, sealing it in an envelope addressed to Paul. Lena tucked it into Mia's bag. Ready? She asked. Mia met her gaze, resolve glinting. Tonight, the mask cracks. They stood together in the dim kitchen, two allies in the shadows, hearts aligned against betrayal. Outside, the world slept. Inside, their plan took breath. Moonlight spilled through Mia's home office window as she laid out her plan. A pretext, a recording device, and a letter demanding answers. She'd pose as a courier again, this time delivering vintage wine to Paul's favorite bar. Paul always couldn't resist a good Bordeaux. Lena arrived with a small digital recorder tucked into her coat pocket. This thing picks up every whisper, she said, voice low. Mia nodded, sliding the device into the neck of a decoy wine bottle. They sealed the cork, and Mia tucked it into her bag along with a letter and a return envelope. At dusk, Mia entered the bar under low light, greeting the bartender by name. Evening, Marco. Got a special delivery from Mr. Sanders. She handed him the bottle. He raised an eyebrow, but scanned the label and nodded. He's in the back. The backroom door clicked open, and Paul looked up from a conversation with two colleagues. Relief flickered across his face. Mia? Didn't know you worked here. His tone was warm, unsuspecting. I pick up odd gigs, she said, voice casual. She set the bottle on the table. Thought you'd enjoy this. He uncorked it with practiced ease, the pop echoing in the hush. Mia settled at a nearby table, glass of water in hand, heart pounding with betrayal and anticipation. Moments later, a waitress delivered 2 glasses. Paul raised his glass. Here's to us finally getting that quiet night together. He inhaled the wine's bouquet, oblivious to the letter beneath his sleeve. Mia rose and approached the table. I have something for you, too. She slid the envelope across. Paul's brow furrowed as he read the return address in her handwriting. He glanced at her, confused. What's this? He asked. Your explanation, Mia replied, voice steady. Please fill it out before the night ends. Before he could protest, she slipped away, merging with the bar shadows. From her seat, she watched him stare at the letter, fingertips tracing the seal. Across the table, his colleagues exchanged worried looks, sensing the tension. Her recorder sat inside the bottle, capturing every moment. His muttered outrage, the deep crack in his voice when he realized it was from her. Mia exhaled, adrenaline sharpening her gaze. She knew the real sting was just beginning. Next, the aftermath of public demand and the unraveling confession. Mia slipped into the booth across from Paul's stunned expression, the recorder nestled covertly in her handbag. His eyes darted between the envelope and her calm face. He cleared his throat, voice rough. What is this? She leaned forward, gaze unwavering. Your debt, she said quietly. To me. He ripped open the seal and pulled out the typed questions. Dates of dinners, amount spent, dinner companions, even the reason for each purchase. The questions landed like stones in the hush of the bar's backroom. Paul's jaw clenched. He ran a hand through his hair, scanning the list. You can't expect me to. I expect the truth, Mia interrupted. She watched his Adam's apple bob, felt the shift in air between them. His colleagues leaned closer, curiosity flickering in their eyes. The weight of witnesses pressed on him. He set the paper down and ran a finger along the glossy wood table. "I spent money," he said at last, voice low. "On Cassie." Mia's heart pounded, but her voice stayed steady. "How much?" He swallowed. "Enough." He paused, glancing at the recorder peeking from her bag. "You recorded me?" "I needed proof," she said. "Proof you chose her over me." The word chose hung in the air. Paul's gaze shifted to the questions again. He looked at the amounts, luxuries she'd long denied herself. Suddenly, the debt wasn't just financial. The betrayal hollowed out every memory they'd built together. His colleagues exchanged uneasy glances. One cleared his throat. "Paul, need any water?" He waved him off. No, his eyes flicked back to Mia. "Why are you doing this?" She closed her eyes for a moment, tasting bitterness and resolve. "Because debts must be paid." He exhaled, shoulders sagging. Then he reached across the table and picked up a pen. "Fine," he said, voice small, almost defeated. "I'll fill it out." Mia watched him sign, each word a confession etched in ink. The recorder captured every syllable, every falter. The debt of deceit was being paid piece by piece. Outside, the city lights glittered indifferent. Inside, Mia felt a quiet victory settle in her bones. Next, rumors spread through her office, and her reputation falters amid whispers. Her heels clicked across the marble lobby as she arrived at work, pulling her blazer tighter. The morning light illuminated the murmurs before she even reached her desk. Colleagues paused mid-conversation, eyes flicking to her with that familiar mix of pity and speculation. In the break room, two women, Sarah and Katie, stood by the coffee machine, whispers trailing behind them. Mia poured her tea, forcing patience. "Morning," she said, voice smooth. They offered tight smiles before Katie leaned in. "Hey, Mia, are you all right?" She nodded, meeting Katie's gaze. "Fine, just handling some personal matters." Katie exchanged a glance with Sarah. "We heard something about a scandal." Sarah's tone wasn't unkind, but the implication stung. Mia set down her cup. "It's being dealt with." Turning away, she noticed the office grapevine humming, jaws snapping shut when she passed, emails sent in hushed tones. She settled at her desk, logging into her computer. The screen lit up a flurry of unread messages, clients canceling consultations, inquiries about the situation. Her pulse fluttered, but she drew in a breath and opened her calendar. Appointment reminders, project deadlines. Work had been her sanctuary. Now it felt fragile. She clicked through her client list and drafted a note. All sessions are on schedule. Then she hit send, determination settling like concrete in her chest. At her desk, the receptionist called her name. A small envelope lay there, no name on the front. Mia opened it to find a printed article, "Local Woman's Divorce Drama Rocks the Social Scene." The headlines were cruel, the details exaggerated. She crushed the paper in her hand, feeling the sting of betrayal again. But beneath it, a comment in red ink, "Stay strong." Her assistant, Jana, had slipped it in. Mia felt warmth bloom, an ember of loyalty in the cold. She tucked the note into her planner. All around her, whispers swirled like smoke, but she refused to be suffocated. She lifted her chin, eyes clear. Today, she would prove that her worth wasn't tied to Paul's lies. She opened her email and drafted a newsletter, financial advice on reclaiming autonomy. Her name at the top was bold and unbroken. Outside her office window, the city pulsed with life. Inside, Mia exhaled. The whispers at work would soon be transformed into applause. Next, Mia distributes her evidence to trusted allies, setting the stage for the grand revelation. Mia settled at her kitchen table, the lamp casting a halo around the unopened letter. She retrieved it from her bag and slid a fresh sheet of stationery into her notebook. Her pen hovered for a moment, then danced across the page. "Paul, I know everything." She listed dates, amounts, locations, each line a meticulous record of his betrayal. Every charge he made at Luna Bistro, every rose she never received, every stolen hour he spent with Cassie. She underlined, "I trusted you, and you chose her over me." Her hand didn't shake. Her resolve was carved in steel. Mia paused and dipped in her tea, the warmth grounding her. She wrote next. I invited you to explain before I exposed you. Beneath that, a deadline. You have until midnight to answer these questions truthfully. No deflections. No lies. She drew a line and added, after that, the evidence goes public. Her heart hammered, but she kept writing. No flourishes, no appeals. Just the facts and her demand for accountability. She signed it simply, Mia. She sealed the envelope, her fingertip brushing the fresh adhesive like a final verdict. She tucked it in her coat pocket, stepping into the autumn chill. The evening wind bit at her cheeks as she walked to Paul's study, where soft lamplight spilled under a closed door. Inside, Paul sat hunched over paperwork, dread in his posture. She slipped the letter onto his desk, the crisp envelope stark against the clutter. He looked up, confusion turning to fear when he saw her face, calm, unflinching. Before he could speak, she turned to leave. Midnight, she said over her shoulder. Be honest. The door clicked softly behind her, leaving him with only the lamp and that sealed ultimatum. Outside, the city lights flickered like stars. Mia inhaled, tasting both liberation and anticipation. The chase was over. The reckoning had begun. Next, Paul's night unravels as he grapples with the truth Mia demands. The grand ballroom shimmered under crystal chandeliers as guests mingled in tuxedos and ball gowns. Mia stood at the back, a flute of champagne cool in her hand. The evening was Paul's masterpiece, a charity gala he'd orchestrated for months. Tonight, his pride would become his undoing. A hush fell as the program began. Paul stepped onto the dais, beaming. He raised his glass. To community and compassion, he proclaimed. Glasses lifted in salute. Mia watched his chest expand with confidence, unaware of the camera slung beneath her arm, a small, concealed device recording every angle. As he launched into his speech about unity, Mia tapped her phone twice. Almost instantly, the projector flared to life, and the video began. Receipts scrolling across the screen, each timestamp glowing like red flags. Paul's face blanched, and murmurs rippled through the crowd. Then came the footage, Paul and Cassie in that penthouse, laughter echoing, champagne flutes clinking. The lilies, the late-night dinners, the stolen glances, all displayed for the very people who admired him most. The music halted, replaced by stunned silence. Gasps, whispered questions, chairs scraping with floors. Paul's colleagues looked to him, disbelieving. He swallowed, mouth dry. Mia stepped forward, voice clear. This is the truth you bought with my trust. The hall fell utterly silent. Paul's jaw clenched. He opened his mouth to speak, but no words came. Flashbulbs popped as journalists in the back captured the scene. Mia's heart pounded, but her voice remained steady. I gave you 10 years of devotion. You spent them on someone else, and you paid for it with my credit. A single spotlight found Paul. He stared at the screen, then at Mia. His empire of respect crumbled in the hush. Finally, he whispered, Mia. She lifted her glass. To honesty, she said softly. May it light the darkest betrayals. She turned and walked away, heels clicking like a verdict. Behind her, the room buzzed with shock and fascination. Mia let the waves of revelation wash over them all, her truth now impossible to ignore. Next, Paul's plea for redemption meets Mia's unwavering resolve. Paul stood at the edge of the stage, shoulders hunched and eyes haunted. The crowd's murmurs felt like 1,000 knives. Mia paused at the footlights, her champagne forgotten. She watched him gather himself, his voice trembling when he finally spoke. Mia, please. His tone was raw, stripped of the polished eloquence he'd practiced moments before. He motioned toward the screen, now dark. I'm sorry. I made a terrible mistake. His palms rose in a pleading gesture. Let me explain. Please. Mia crossed her arms, the gala lights casting her shadow long and imposing. Around them, guests shifted uneasily, unsure whether to return to their programs or witness this unraveling. Paul swallowed, eyes flicking to friends who once smiled at his jokes, but now looked away. He took a step toward her. I lost my way. I thought Cassie understood me in ways I needed. But I was wrong. Payne cracked his voice. You were always the one who held us together. Mia's heart clenched. Her pain mirrored in his admission, but her resolve remained anchored. She tilted her chin. You understood me? You scrolled your phone for photos of her when I stood beside you. The words hit him like a jolt. His shoulders jerked, and he closed his eyes. I'm sorry doesn't fix it. He exhaled, voice barely above a whisper. But I'm begging you to let me try. Silence pressed in as Mia considered his plea. The memory of his laughter with Cassie was riveted in her mind, the receipts and recordings etched in cold proof. She felt the weight of every friend who'd looked at her with pity, every late night she'd spent planning her response. When she spoke, her words were measured. I won't be your safety net again. Her gaze held his. You made your choice. A tremor ran through him. He looked to the assembled crowd as if seeking an ally, finding none. His voice broke. I love you. Mia turned away, heels clicking on the polished floor. Love is enough, she said, voice low, only when coupled with respect. Behind her, Paul's plea echoed in the hush, unanswered. Mia slipped into her office the next morning, the gala's shattered glamour still clinging to her heels. She shut the door and leaned against the wood, closing her eyes as sunlight filtered through the blinds. No applause had followed Paul's plea, only stunned silence. That silence, she realized, was hers to fill with a new kind of response. She opened her desk drawer and pulled out her planner, rifling to a fresh page labeled Next Steps. Underneath, she listed tasks: update credit lines, file for separation, consult a financial attorney, draft her consultancy launch. Each item felt like a line drawn in concrete, a declaration that she would no longer be defined by his choices. Mia booted her laptop and logged into her accounts. The freeze on Paul's cards remained firm. Her new cards were active, ready. She created a folder titled Caldwell Independence and began drafting her first blog post, a frank account of financial betrayal and the importance of autonomy. Her fingers danced across the keyboard, channeling anger into purpose. Midday brought a knock. Lena slipped inside, arms laden with coffee and determination. Ready? She asked. Mia nodded, accepting the cup. Every sip warmed her resolve. They spent the afternoon calling attorneys, setting up meetings with a divorce lawyer known for her no-nonsense approach. At each call's end, Mia felt the invisible chains of her former life click open. By late afternoon, she drafted the announcement for her consultancy's soft launch, From Betrayed to Empowered, financial guidance for women reclaiming their futures. She attached a sleek logo, an unbroken circle rising like a sun, and hit send to a curated list of contacts. Her phone buzzed. Congratulatory messages from clients, colleagues, even strangers who'd read the gala footage. One texted out, "Proud of you. You turned pain into power." Mia paused, breath catching. She stood by the window, looking out over the city's skyline. In the distance, cranes lifted steel beams, symbols of construction, of building something new. Mia placed a hand over her heart, feeling the steady thrum of her own strength. She whispered to herself, "This is mine." Next, the first step toward her new future brings an unexpected ally and the spark of something more. Her first workshop debuted in a sunlit conference room downtown. A circle of women gathered with anticipation. Mia stood at the front, markers in hand, and a whiteboard awaiting her vision. She welcomed them with a smile laced with authenticity. "Today, you reclaim control," she announced, voice steady. The attendees shared stories of fear of hidden debt, fear of unseen partners, fear of financial crippling through divorce or loss. Mia nodded as they spoke, her own scars fueling empathy. She guided them through exercises, tracking every expense, identifying emotional spending triggers, and building separate safety accounts, lessons she'd learned the hard way. When she explained how she'd uncovered Paul's secret transactions, the room fell silent, then erupted in murmurs of solidarity. One woman, tears glistening, whispered, "I thought it was just me." Mia's heart swelled. She realized this was never about Paul. It was about transforming betrayal into empowerment for countless others. Afterward, women lined up to thank her, sharing hugs and hopeful smiles. A young mother handed Mia a card, her voice trembling. "You've given me back my future." Mia tucked the card into her planner like a treasure. That evening, Mia returned home to her empty house, its walls now a canvas for her new life. She opened her laptop to check her consultancy's website analytics. Sign-ups were climbing, messages pouring in. She drafted follow-up emails, each word infused with encouragement and clarity. Late at night, Paul's calls still came. Apologies, pleas to reconcile. Mia silenced her phone without a glance. Her independence was non-negotiable. Instead, she reviewed her bank balances, seeing the steady growth in her separate accounts. Each number was proof of her regained sovereignty. She poured a glass of sparkling water and raised it in a quiet toast. The bubbles caught the light like hopeful sparks. Mia closed her eyes, feeling the weight of doubt lift from her shoulders. Outside, the city lights blinked, indifferent yet somehow reassuring. Mia typed a final line in her journal. "I am my own provision." Then she saved the document, sealing her vow to never surrender her power again. She found herself standing on the old bridge where Paul had been on one knee, the river below singing its own timeless refrain. The wooden planks had aged, their grains splintered by years and weather, but the view remained the same, water shimmering bronze in the late afternoon sun. Mia ran her fingers along the railing, its smooth surface a reminder of promises once shared. Her chest rose and fell with a quiet intensity. Memories flooded, Paul's nervous smile, the ring glinting beneath his breathless confession. Back then, her world had seemed boundless, anchored by love's bright flame. Now, that flame had burned away illusions, leaving only truth. She closed her eyes and inhaled, tasting the crisp air. The scent of wildflowers from the meadow drifted in, weaving through her senses like a gentle echo of hope. Pain still clung to her heart, but beneath it lay something steadier, clarity. Ahead, a lone jogger crossed the bridge. Mia watched her silhouette, strong and unhurried, and thought of how far she'd come, from the stunned woman staring at foreign charges to someone reclaiming her own narrative. Every step forward had been a lesson in resilience. She lifted her hand and traced imaginary lines through the air, as if rewriting the story that had begun here. "I choose myself now," she whispered. The words felt solid on her tongue, each syllable a declaration. Her phone buzzed with a message from one of her workshop participants. "I stood up to my husband today. Thank you." Mia's lips curved in a gentle smile. The echoes of her own journey were reverberating in countless lives, each wave reinforcing her newfound strength. As she turned away from the river, her reflection shimmered in the water below, unbroken, unmasked, and luminous. The bridge, once a symbol of shared dreams, now marked the crossing into her next chapter. Mia walked on, footsteps steady, heart echoing with a single pulse. She was no longer defined by betrayal, but by the power she'd reclaimed. Mia's phone lit up with a new message as she locked the door to her downtown office. "Coffee? I owe you one." It was from Raphael, a client whose divorce she'd navigated weeks earlier. His words were simple, but they carried an invitation she hadn't expected. She found him in a corner cafe, late afternoon sun filtering through stained glass windows. He stood to greet her, nervous smile in place. "Thanks for meeting me." Mia offered a warm nod, settling into the leather bench. Raphael spoke of his newfound confidence, how he'd opened a savings account and negotiated a fair settlement. "I couldn't have done it without you," he said, eyes honest. Mia felt a surge of pride. He paused, then added, "I know this isn't the right time," but he reached in his coat pocket and withdrew a small sketchbook, flipping it open to reveal a delicate charcoal drawing of Mia on that bridge, capturing her strength in motion. Her breath caught. "You drew this?" He nodded, cheeks flushing. "After our session, I saw you walking alone, and something about your stance spoke to me." He closed the book gently. It's not much, but I wanted you to have it. Mia touched the corner of the page, her surprise softening into gratitude. The gesture felt like sunlight breaking through a long-held cloud. Raphael looked up, vulnerability in his gaze. If you ever need a friend, or more than a consultant, I'd like to be there. The words hung between them, tender and unexpected. Mia's heart fluttered, not with the old ache of betrayal, but with the curious stirring of possibility. She met his eyes and saw respect, kindness, and perhaps something more. She closed the sketchbook and offered him a genuine smile. "I'd like that," she said quietly. As they sipped coffee, conversation flowing easily, Mia realized hope could emerge in the most surprising forms. The future she was building wasn't just about independence. It was about connection born from honesty. Outside, evening lights flickered on, and Mia felt the soft glow of new beginnings warming her from within. Mia sank into her new office chair, sunlight streaming through the frosted glass emblazoned with Phoenix Financial. The logo, a bird rising from stylized flames, seemed to pulse with promise. She had spent weeks securing licensing, drafting policies, and recruiting a small team of empathetic advisors. Now, the Phoenix account was ready to launch. Her first client, Elena, sat across from her, voice trembling as she explained her fear of co-signing a loan with an untrustworthy partner. Mia listened, attentive, then guided her through setting up a separate emergency fund, her Phoenix account. Each step reinforced a concept Mia had learned. True security comes from independence, not codependence. As Elena signed the agreements, relief washed over her face. "I feel free," she whispered. Mia nodded, remembering her own liberation. Midday brought a call from the bank. Their pilot program for the Phoenix account received a grant for financial education outreach. The news ignited Mia's chest with satisfaction. She jotted notes for a webinar series, Rise from the Ashes, Building Your Phoenix Account. Later, she reviewed her email and found a message from Paul's attorney confirming receipt of divorce papers. No response. His silence was affirmation enough. Mia closed the message, the chapter ending as decisively as it had begun. She poured a celebratory tea and opened her sketchbook, Raphael's drawing still pinned on her inspiration board. Beneath it, she wrote, "Reinvention is the greatest revenge." A soft knock at the door revealed Lena, holding a stack of invitations to speak at women's forums. Each event was a platform for Mia to spread her message, that financial autonomy could rebuild lives. Mia accepted them, heart swelling with purpose. As the day waned, she stood by her office window, the Phoenix logo framed by dusky sky. Flames of betrayal had given way to wings of empowerment. She whispered into the quiet, "This is only the beginning." Next, a high-profile speaking engagement thrust Mia into the spotlight and tests her newfound strength. Paul's presence in her office felt sudden, like a storm breaking against glass. He stood in the doorway, divorce papers in hand, shoulders tense. "Mia," he said, voice faltering. She didn't rise from behind her desk. Instead, she offered him a seat, her calm a contrast to his unrest. He sat, unfolding the document. I met with my counsel," he stammered. "I returned your papers. I want reconciliation." Mia regarded him coolly, arms crossed. The walls around them bore frames of her achievements, client success stories, the Phoenix logo, Raphael's charcoal sketch pinned above. This was her domain now. Paul cleared his throat. "I've changed. I know I hurt you. Please reconsider." His eyes searched hers for a flicker of softness. She inhaled steady. "The papers are filed," she said evenly. "The preliminary date is next month. They can't be withdrawn." His face crumpled. He glanced at the sketch, a testament to her resilience. "What happened to us?" he whispered. Mia's gaze lingered on the charcoal lines before she met his eyes. "What happened?" "You chose deceit over dialogue, cash over compassion." She stood and walked to her bookshelf, retrieving a bound copy of their prenuptial agreement. She laid it before him. "This protected me when you betrayed me. Now it protects my future." Paul's hand trembled as he reached for the pages. He skimmed the terms, fidelity clauses, asset divisions, her autonomy sealed in ink. His expression shifted from regret to resignation. He looked up. I didn't understand how deep my choices cut. Mia closed the distance, her voice calm yet firm. Understanding comes too late. She tapped the agreement. These words guard my independence. He exhaled, eyes glistening. I'm sorry. She folded her arms, unwavering. Apology accepted, but I won't restart this journey with you. A silence stretched until Paul nodded, acceptance settling in his gaze. He rose, gathering the papers. I see that now. As he turned to go, Mia met his gaze one last time. I wish you well, she said softly, but I've already begun to fly. Paul paused at the door, then exited. Mia watched him leave, the world beyond her office suddenly expansive, unbounded, a horizon she was ready to explore. Morning light spilled through the cafe's windows as Mia settled into her favorite corner table, Raphael sliding into the seat opposite her with 2 lattes. Steam curled from the mugs, mingling with the soft hum of early conversation. Today wasn't about strategy or evidence, it was about possibility. She sipped her latte, savoring its warmth. Across from her, Raphael studied her with quiet admiration. You look lighter, he said. Mia smiled. The tension of the past months finally eased into peace. Their conversation drifted from workshop plans to weekend hikes, punctuated by laughter that felt entirely natural. No walls, no masks, just 2 people connecting over shared hopes. After Raphael left, Mia took a moment to journal. Today is the first day of everything. She underlined the phrase twice, the pen's ink bright against the paper. She packed her bag and stepped into the sunlight, Phoenix Financial's logo reflecting on her office door like a beacon. Inside, her team greeted her with fresh energy, emails from new clients, invitations to speak at another women's summit. Each opportunity felt like a promise fulfilled. Her phone chimed with a message from one of her workshop attendees. I opened my first solo bank account today. Thank you. Mia's heart swelled. She typed back, congratulations. You're writing your own story now. Later, she climbed to the rooftop of her building, the city sprawling beneath her. Cool breeze teased her hair as she gazed at the skyline. Bridges, towers, endless possibility. She closed her eyes and raised her arms slightly, as if embracing the entire horizon. In that moment, she felt every fracture of her past converge into a single, powerful truth. She was no longer defined by betrayal, but by the strength she forged from it. The phoenix didn't merely rise, it soared. Mia opened her eyes and stepped forward, each footfall sure and unhesitating. A new dawn had risen, and she was ready to meet it head-on.